Well, thank you for joining us for an Agile Approach to HR. My name is Michael McNeil. I'm a principal here at Expium, and I'll be walking you through some of the ways that we see HR departments using the Atlassian tools. And this recording will also be going up on our YouTube channel as an update to an older version that has been out there for some time. So without further ado, I'll walk through. We're going to go through, as a part of this webinar, introduction to some concepts, an introduction to the ideas, and then some very specific concepts. We're going to look at the tool a little bit, and then if there's time at the end, we will answer any open questions. We will be going through some various scenarios and uses. They're not all inclusive of all uses, but it should give you an indication of how to use these tools. So Agile HR and why? I mean, I probably should define what we're looking at as HR. We're looking at it as the management of people and staff within an organization, and also that goes from the entire life cycle of a person in an organization, from the hiring all the way through the training and development and the advancement, all the way through to the conclusion of that relationship with that employee. So looking at using the Atlassian tools for HR, most corporations and most organizations actually have Atlassian tools in their environment already. What we're doing is, instead of having a customized HR system that is very expensive to complete and maintain, the tooling that Atlassian has is generic enough and configurable enough to be very effective for these uses. And so we've seen some really good things come out of how you use these tools, even managing the assignments to teams, etc. And then Atlassian is built for Agile, and that's the kind of software term, but iterative is kind of the industry term for continuous improvement, the idea of constantly getting better, constantly improving your processes. The Atlassian tools don't lend themselves to being in an environment where things are fixed and they never change. The idea is you can constantly update and constantly change. This allows you to be more responsive, to understand the needs of the organization and be responsive to them. Ultimately, this improves the quality, and through the visualization tools, things don't go falling through the cracks. A lot of time can be saved. One of the biggest I've seen is that when someone has a new position open, they're constantly wanting to go to HR and get an update, or they're sending emails, or they're making phone calls. Well, if that information is visible as to the process, how many applicants are going through, where they're at in the process, are contracts being done, all that can be exposed very easily, usually with a tool that the organization already has. So that's the why. The how. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all of the practical aspects of Jira, but I am wanting to walk you through some of the pieces and kind of how they work. So this is a visualization of a workflow. So as a part of our organization, we teach a lot of classes in a lot of areas on both of the development side of our business with Angular and GRX, a lot of other tooling, and then the Atlassian side of our business with Jira Bootcamp, the portfolio classes, etc. So we have an onboarding process, even for our internal staff, to become full instructors. And sometimes these are external experts in the industry that come in and want to teach classes for us. And so we have a workflow associated with that. And these steps in the workflow are managed by different people. There can be specific decision gates at different points in the workflow. And this can be completely configured to be representative of what you're doing within your organization. Now, the important thing to note, if you're not familiar with Jira already, is that statuses, which are the on hold, inquiry, introductory steps, in review, these are places where the human involved in the process is doing the work. So, for example, in the interview section, this applicant would sit in the interview status for the period of time that they're being scheduled for an interview. The interview is happening. Interview notes are added to the issue. Some decisions are being made as to whether they move or not. This is where the human work is being done. And then the transitions, which are these arrows between the statuses, that's where the system does a lot of automated work for you. So for example, you can have external systems being updated. You can have emails being sent out when you move something through the workflow. So the best way to think of these workflows is there's these resting places where I'm going to do some work. And then when I make a decision, the system's going to do a lot of automated things for me that are going to really help me. It's going to update reporting, et cetera. So that's the workflows. Live tracking. So when you have a system that is being managed with a workflow like what we see here, imagine you have 100 applicants in various stages of this workflow. Well, once you have that data already in a system, then it's very easy to have a visualization, and there's a number of visualization tools available within Jira and within the Atlassian suite to actually show the status of each of these and say, I'm really interested in one of them. I can actually see details. And this information can then be radiated and displayed throughout the organization. This allows for the stopping of the darkening of the cube or office door to get an answer. This can keep people up to date and can help keep the process moving forward. It also allows you to see kind of your funnel of staff as they move forward. So that's the live tracking and a little bit of the visualization. There are other areas where you can create things like pie charts and have them displayed and radiated as well, or you can actually look at cumulative flow diagrams. So this is very sparse data because this is just a demo instance. But if it was real data, you would see how the various categories and statuses are increasing or decreasing over time. And if you had for example, if you had a service center which had 500 agents in it, and you needed to have a constant flow to be replacing those that are turning over, you could begin to spot problems in that flow of applicants and make some adjustments before it became a crisis. So accountability. So you can see with a tool like this, you can have approvals at various steps in the process. A manager can approve at a certain step. The stakeholder that's actually ultimately hiring the staff can have an approval step in the workflow along with the hiring manager, those sorts of things. And then document management with Confluence, and I don't have it built up here, but we can do things like tracking all of the application documents, have a checklist, have an onboarding checklist related to staffing. We can have a professional development checklist, a log of all the professional development activities over time. Even things like tracking, on the accounting side, like 401k contributions, et cetera. The system is secure enough to be able to do those sorts of things and integrate in with other tools. And a really important point is that the Atlassian tools have full APIs, and we build a lot of custom integrations for our clients. So now I want to run through some specific ideas and examples of them, and how we use the tools and how we see the tools work for us. And I'll give you a little more explanation of who we are. We're actually two different companies, and I'll get into that a little bit more in a bit. But we have a rapidly changing hiring environment in the tech sector. So we need to be able to respond and react, both as our needs change, but also as the expectations in the environment changes. And so being able to have these dynamic workflows really makes a difference. We tend to use the technology. You're going to hear about some things that we do with that give us greater agility in related to the hiring process. And then we're looking for quality. So our hiring managers in our organization spend their time establishing the quality of the candidate. They're not spending their time on paperwork. They're not spending their time talking to people in interviews and on phones. We have a process by which we really focus on identifying the fit, identifying the quality of the person, whether it be what's the level of their intellect, where are they thinking, what's their learning style, those sorts of things. And then we automate all those other little pieces that are unimportant, they're important that they get done, but they're not important that a human be involved in the process. So we have a lot of automation that goes on in our process. So I'm going to give two specific case studies for two different positions. One's a project coordinator, and in our organization, this is like a light project management role. And the constant in the tech sector, obviously the job descriptions evolve regularly. There are going to be lots of applicants for a position like this, so we need to be able to filter. And then we use something called a video interview to speed the process. Because when you go, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, but when you get into a video interview, you usually know within 30 seconds whether they're a definite fit or a maybe. And if they're in a maybe, within a few minutes and clicking around in the video, you can tell based on their communication style, how they interact, how well did they use the technology to actually deliver the video to you. That can really get you some positives. And then on the developer side, we've got another set of problems that we get into. These are very deep technical staff. And so we need to understand what their capabilities are. And so we have a special process specifically for those folks in our environment. So we go through, here's the quick run through of the process we use for the project coordinator. So we have a resume system that we have come in. We have a brief screening and a kind of a triage kind of mode. And then usually about 10% of the applicants are moved on to the video interview part of the process. And this is all part of a workflow within the system. And the HR manager filters that first level because we have some basic criteria that we need to hit. We can also, the HR manager also has the ability to say, oh, this person doesn't meet this specific criteria, but it's clear that they're probably a fit. We had a great example of an employee that came in, wouldn't have normally fit, and now he's one of our top employees because the hiring manager said, you know, he was living in Japan for a number of years, had a bunch of capabilities. He could really fit well. And so he made it to the next step of the process, even though he didn't technically meet the technical criteria, and has been an absolute outstanding hire. So this gives the hiring manager the opportunity to dig through and nail this down. Then the hiring manager also does, for those that get through the video interview process, which is usually 10% of that. So now we're down to, let's say, 5 out of 100 candidates. That's when we actually have the interaction with the phone screening. And then we do an interview with a writing sample, and we go through that selection process. And the actual hiring manager from the actual stakeholder that's going to have the employee does not get involved until that interview selection process. So they don't have to deal with the noise. And all this is enabled by having having a process like this. At any time, that stakeholder can dig in and can look at the workflow. He can see at what step the different applicants are. If he happens to know an applicant through the industry, he can flag that one for the hiring manager. There's a lot of automatic things that happen in the process here that are enabled by using a tool like Jira and the Atlassian suite to manage this process in a proactive way. So then we look at the developer side. This is quite a different process because we're looking at, in our organization, we're looking for technical leaders, or we're looking for college graduates that have the potential to be a technical leader. We're not just looking for developers. We have some very specific criteria, and they need to be able to write code that works. Because one of the expectations we have in our organization is the ability to live code on a screen in front of people that are consuming it, whether it be students or a client, et cetera. So again, we have the HR resume screening process. There's some specific criteria that's used. And then we get the a technical lead in our organization to do a resume screen as well of some of the there might be 50% that make it through the HR in this environment. And then once the technical resume screening happens and they're filtered down to maybe 20%, then the hiring manager does the basic call. Those that make it through that process come in for a technical interview. And then we do something that we've seen as pretty unique, is we do a remote coding session. So we actually get a team of our developers in a room, and we have them get on a live screen share with the candidate, and the candidate answers questions, shows some code, writes code, solves a problem. This filters out and a lot of the candidates, because many people have a good resume, but they don't really have the details. And again, we can do this type of a complex back and forth process because we're using a workflow, because we're managing the process within our organization. So then we go through the normal HR interview, we do a selection process with the technical lead, and then we iterate through the debrief process. So another piece that comes in with those same staff, so we have those staff that have come in, they're tracked in our environment. Once they're in the environment, that basically gives us their identifier and their tracking information for their long-term role within the organization. So we use the same system to be tracking the professional development, whether they get added then to something like what you see here, which is the process for becoming a full certified instructor within our organization. Or they get to be they're moving towards the role of being a technical lead instead of just a developer or a senior developer or an architect. There are different roles within the organization, and it's very important for us to understand the level of development of each of the staff. And it's critical that we identify staff and how they can move forward, because we don't want people just staying stagnant. We want them learning new technologies. We want them growing in their abilities and their skills. And often that means they need professional development in areas like writing or public speaking. And all this we can track. So we actually have another project in our system that tracks all of the conferences and how many conferences has this person applied to speak at? How many conferences has this person attended? What kind of conferences do they need to attend? And we've had people attend a variety of everything from technical conferences to professional development, to industry leadership conferences. There's a lot of different avenues, and being able to see that in a system, which the Atlassian tools enable, is very important. Now, real quickly, I'm going to get back to things here in a second, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about us. So Expium is a platinum partner with Atlassian, but we've been using the Atlassian tools a lot longer than we've been a partner. We developed the Jira Bootcamp class, for example, 3 years before Atlassian even approached us about being a partner. So we provide training in a lot of areas. We do consulting, and then most importantly, we do a lot of custom development, which gives us a unique perspective on the marketplace. So here's a sampling of our classes. We deal with Jira Service Desk, Jira Bootcamp, Portfolio, etc. And then we have a very customized Atlassian User Academy, where we come into large organizations and teach large numbers of staff, usually for an hour to 4 hours at a time, to effectively use the tooling that has been established by the organization. And then we have the consulting. One of our most popular engagements is this customized Jira configuration. And that can be for Portfolio. It can be coming in and setting up the HR, like we've done that for a number of companies, or setting up a governance environment for Jira. There's this standard kind of get in, and it's a standardized process, but it's a very customized result for the clients. And then we've been involved in larger business transformations, and we do provide ongoing support and service to our key customers. On the custom development side, this is where the other company comes in. Oasis Digital is a sister company to Expium, and we are a leader in the enterprise development space, tightly allied with Google and others. We deal with Angular, React, Vue on the front end. We deal with .NET Core and Java on the back end, Node.js, and we do everything from full stack JavaScript to traditional end-tier kind of applications in the enterprise. So because of that, we have a very unique approach to all of these problems because we use the tools. We don't just consult on the tools. We are deeply embedded in the Atlassian tools for our projects. We use the road mapping, the portfolio management of our projects, et cetera. And we work for some of the largest companies in the world based on their specific needs. So going back here, now we've got a little bit of a case study based on what I've been kind of showing you in terms of these boards. But we have an Angular Bootcamp as one of our main offerings. It's one of our most popular classes, teaches developers to use or retrains the developers sometimes to use the Angular framework for building applications. That's Google's primary front end framework. And so we have somebody who's already in our circle. So they are a contractor or they are an employee, and we need to help them get to the level that we expect our instructors to be. So we have a process, and you've been seeing it here, where we have very defined steps, and these are managed by one of our technical leads, and they roll through this process. And it's a very customized effort where they can sit in on classes. They are interviewed after those classes. We go through that cycle a few times, and then they understand the requirements. They begin participating in the curriculum development that happens every week, and then they get bumped to becoming an assistant instructor. And then finally, when everything is all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and they meet the high bar that we have, then they become a full-blown instructor. And again, this is all managed within the Atlassian suite. So we baseline the needed, so when we built this workflow and this environment, we baselined the needed skills we had that we needed for being effective. We built the path. Now we work the path. We constantly improve the path. And we've become very agile in this process. A great example is we started to notice some instructors that were getting through our process, but it was difficult to have them be available for classes. And we learned that there was a certain type of individual that can have the mentality of, okay, I want to teach your class, I'm an expert, but I want you to be in my orbit. I don't want to be in your orbit. So because of the demand we have and the number of classes that we have going on every week, we need somebody that's going to be committed to teaching and not just, okay, when I have time, I'll teach a class. So we were able to really build into our process that opportunity to vet those instructors that were outside our organization to be able to understand who was going to be committed, and there are some tools that we use to do that. So there's another completely different angle for using the Atlassian tools, and that is providing a feedback loop, whether it be for employees or for customers or for vendors. There's a number of people that the organization interacts with that you could really benefit from understanding what their view of your organization is. And we've been using these tools to establish that even though we're not a huge company, we've been able to get solid feedback from various aspects of our interactions on the corporate level. This can be used with employees to improve the climate. It can be used to adapt your systems and your processes and your workflows to work better with your vendors, and can identify bottlenecks and problems, going back to things that hold your organization back. Now, I'm going to hit you with a kind of out-of-the-box case study, but one that's very true. I'm also I've been elected to the school board at our local school district. I'm on the Board of Education, been on there for 12 years, just came up for a new cycle, so I'll be up for 15 years, so I'm deeply embedded in the school district and how it works and the growth of education. As an organization, we have historically done externally led climate surveys where an outside firm will put together a survey. They'll send it out every year, get feedback from the teachers. They'll take some time, they'll review the process, and say eventually 9 months after it happens, it'll make its way up to the Board of Education. Well, one of the things we've done is we went to a whole different approach. And so we took these external tools and we brought it inside. We have a staff member that runs this, and she does a fantastic job. And she does very quick response surveys on every professional development that happens, every event that happens. We get stakeholder feedback very quickly. It's a quick process, and it makes it to the staff, the parents, and the board very quickly. This provides a much faster path for change, and it allows us to make the changes that we otherwise couldn't do. Now, the Atlassian tools enable this, so you can have every event have a comment, have a survey cycle, and external tools, if you want to use a Survey Monkey or something, can be triggered with this, or you could use Google Google Forms, for example. There's a number of ways to gather this information, and all of that can be automated from the Atlassian toolbox because of the ability to program scripts and be able to program external links, and then also be able to take in data and have other integrations running via the API. It's a very powerful platform, and what I'm describing here can happen very easily and very quickly. So one of the things in 2018 that happened that, we got awarded the Outstanding Board Award, specifically in the area of human and organizational capital. And Afton was the only district in the state that we're in Missouri to be recognized for this. So it does work, it does make a difference. Now, some key technologies as some key takeaways here. Outside of the Atlassian tools and the workflows that you can build, I would encourage you to consider the concept of video interviews, or even some companies that have launched tools around the video interview process. It decouples the time commitment from that need. Auto appointment schedulers kind of give you that view of who's running the interaction. So one of the tools we've used is if we use the auto appointment scheduler, then they're interacting with our schedules in an effective way, and we can see whether they're flexible or not. Online meetings, the tools are there. They're good. We need to use them. You're using one right now to see this webinar. Agile boards give you that immediate feedback, and other visualization tools are really effective for communicating throughout the organization where you're at in the HR process. And then, as I've mentioned a few times, the workflow automation. So I am going to skip a little bit here. As a part of a number of our other efforts, we do a full demonstration here. Let me run through just a couple of pieces of the puzzle. So when you look at a particular, so I don't have to load the screen, this is the particular issue. You have the opportunity with Jira to be creating as many fields as you want. So you can have in your workflow, as described here, we talked about all the different processes. Now you can also track as much information as you want. We do things like, what team are they on? If they're on multiple teams, list all the teams that they're on, list all the projects that they're engaged with, list all of their key relationships within the organization. Do they have a spouse that works in the organization? What does that look like? There's all types of linking and database type elements here that are completely customizable for your use. And then when you look at the Agile board, you can create larger boards to cover many hiring positions, and then provide filters to only show items that meet a certain criteria. So for example, a specific position. You can do some very interesting things with the setup here. And this is updated live. So when something is changed, if this is up on my screen, I will see the change as it happens. And if I'm the hiring manager, I can take and I can just make moves here. And if I'm the stakeholder and I have the rights, I can do the same thing as well. So if I go back here, I can begin to move these folks around, and I can see what's going on in my process very clearly. Let's see, and then, no, that's not really helpful. So the only other thing I wanted to show you in the workflow process is, let me get to this idea of components. So there's a feature, and it was originally built around software development and having different sections of a project be worked on. But this is one of the features that we've seen be very effective for HR. So you can set up components on a per project basis. So this is only in your HR project. And you can have, for example, key parts of the organization that you're doing hiring for. And so you can create a name like for the dev team 1. And so I can begin to create these different pieces. I can set up a lead person. So I can have a default of unassigned. I can also set up a user in the system to be the lead for that particular effort. So then I add that, and I can add more. I can add as many as I want. And this gives me the opportunity to track at a multi-level kind of basis, kind of all the different pieces. So you have all your applicants, you have the stakeholders or the hiring organization that they're going to be going into, and the key person there. And it begins you to give a way to organize this whole process very effectively. So with that, I want to see, do we have any questions? Looking to see, don't see questions coming in. So appreciate everybody joining. Again, this video will be up on our YouTube channel very soon. Have a great day.